Hello there guys, Elite Legionarii here, and today I have a fantastic 4v4 31k for Rome Total War. This is a battle that I myself did not participate in. This battle was sent to me by Greek clansman Kleomenis, and Cleo said this was a really close game with an amazing turnabout during it, and boy was he right. When I went over the replay I was really into this. This was a really great battle. It had some fantastic action happening in it, and it really looked really bad for Cleo's team at one particular stage of this battle. But it had some absolutely fantastic teamwork and some wonderful comeback action from a pretty nasty scenario. So I don't want to give any more away than that though. So without further ado, I'll outline the factions, players, and the battle as a whole. So Cleo is playing as Macedon, which as we know is probably Cleo's favourite faction to use. He tends to use it more than any other one. His army consists of 14 Royal Pikemen and 6 Cretan archers. So he's forsaken cavalry in favour of using more archers here to support his allies. So he's probably doing this to counter one of his opponents, which we can see over that way is Carthage. Anyway, to Cleo's right we have Titan's Hades, who is in command of the Scipii Romans. His army consists of 14 Urbans and 6 Praetorian cavalry. Hades performs very well in this fight. He has an excellent display of battlefield reading, or reading how the battlefield's sort of progressing, and he does some fantastic teamwork, and I want to highlight how well Hades plays in this particular game. And then we have Titan's Luke, or aka Titan's Liam. He's in command of the Julii Romans. His army consists of 6 Praetorian Cav, 1 early legionary first cohort, and 13 urban cohorts. And then to the very far left over here, next to Cleo, is OTD member Copsman. Copsman is playing as the Seleucid Empire, which is a rare choice, as the Seleucids tend to be quite difficult to use. Copsman's army consists of 6 cataphracts, 4 units of archers, 2 of which are hidden, and the rest are Silversial pikemen. So, well, this Seleucid player on the team does give this team a bit more of a harder time, but it also means for some more interesting variation of tactics. Anyway, let me unpause. The opposing team consists of Brotherhood member Greco, who is in command of the Senate. His army consists of 6 cavalry, Praetorian Cav, 2 archers, and 12 infantry. And then we have COH member Phlegathon with Carthage. He's using the name Phlegathon-Carthage, which I'm assuming means this battle was done roughly around Christmas. Anyway, he's got 1 peasant, which is probably just meant for soaking up peeler, and then the rest are Sacred Band. And then we have Brotherhood member Gladius. Gladius is a seasoned veteran of the Brotherhood and is always a really nice guy, and it's great to play with. So it's good to see Gladius in this game. He's got 3 units Archer Auxilia, and then it looks like the rest are infantry here, and he's got 6 cavalry, I believe. Then we have Brotherhood member Cataclysm, aka Sacred. However, he's not wearing his Brotherhood tags, so I'm wondering if maybe he left Brotherhood or he just took them off for the time being. I don't know. He has also got the SPQR Romans, the Senate, and his army consists of, I think it's 16 infantry and 4 cavalry. Anyway, at the start here we can see that Cleo has dispersed his archers into 2 groups of 3, probably intending on using the first wave to wear down the enemy archers, absorb shots, do a bit of damage, and then have the final wave as the killers to finish in the late game. I thought now we'd have a look at the Seleucid army and its disposition and that sort of thing. The interesting thing here is he's got 4 units of archers. Now this isn't probably very ideal for the Seleucids. The only time I would probably do this with the Seleucids if I were using them is if I was facing sort of a barbarian faction like Germania or Britannia, where I know my archers are going to be useful because they've got no armour. However, with this kind of factions these guys are facing, these 4 archers, because they're only regular archers, which is the best Seleucids can do, it can be difficult to make this work. They're not useless, but they're difficult to make work because they've obviously got shorter range, so you have to get a lot closer. They They are cheaper, which is useful, so you can put more upgrades on them. The only thing I like to do with these kind of cheap archers is to use their fire arrows to, like, on enemy cav, so I get a bit of an edge in the cavalry battle. Or they could be used effectively to support Cleo here, in that he could try and draw these guys forward so that the enemy will expend ammunition shooting these guys and not Cleo's Cretans, and let the Cretans shoot the enemy. That can be a useful way to use cheap archers too, but overall the uses are pretty limited for the most part, so it's interesting to see he's brought 4 of them, but then again he is an OTD member, and as far as I know OTD members almost always make use of archers, at least probably 4 or 5 archers plus even. I'd also like to point out here, I couldn't help but notice that Kopsman has deployed out on the left flank, but he's made no attempt to move into a central position, which I think is, I don't know, I don't think it's a very good idea. Personally, I would not recommend the Seleucids being on the left wing, especially on the left wing with Macedon and them next to them, because I think, like, personally, the Seleucids should swap with Hades here, because the Seleucids are a lot safer in the middle. As long as the Seleucids don't engage in Carthage, of course, that's something he doesn't want to happen. But because he's on the flank like this, it would be very easy for Brotherhood member Cataclysm to move forward and quickly destroy these infantry, because he wouldn't even need all his urbans to do it. He could toss a couple of urbans into the fight against the cataphracts with his own cavalry to make sure they can't win. And then he could just push forward here, because if we take a look here, Carthage here by Phlegathon is clearly going to go for Cleo, because Carthage has got an advantage against Macedon. Cleo knows this, and he's set up his counter Carthage sort of formation. I just want to, I'm sorry to deviate here, but I just want to point this out. Cleo has this sort of formation like this here. He's got just a very minimal gap here, but it's to help him take on the pikes. But the key here is when Cleo puts all his pikemen into phalanx, these pikes are going to put their pikes down, and they're still going to be just nudging the back of the front row, and the same here with the middle row. The back row will be nudging the back of the middle row. And so when Phleg's pikemen push forward, they're going to quickly destroy his front line. It's going to be pretty obvious. But what will happen is, because he's going to go off guard mode and push inwards, his lines tend to break up, and that's what happens when you attack. While Cleo will hold guard mode on, what he's going to try and do is try and grind him down and break his formation up into the pikes, and you'll see what I mean when this actually happens during this battle. But in order for Cleo to do that, it's going to require Cleo's complete attention on Carthage. So he is not going to be able to be of any assistance to, apart from maybe his archers, he's not going to be of any real assistance to Kopsman against these Roman infantry, and it'll be very, very hard for Kopsman to make these silver shield pikemen safe and not easily overrun by these urban cohorts when he's on the flank like this. And the point is, I'm trying to make here, it's a bit long-winded, I do apologise, but it wouldn't be difficult for Cataclysm to basically unload loads of peeler manually into the front row, break them open, and grind down the silver shield pikemen very quickly on the urban cohorts. And he could also occupy the cataphracts with his own cav and some infantry, because he won't need all his infantry to attack the Seleucid infantry. And if that happens, what's going to happen is the Seleucid army will rout very quickly, and then all of a sudden you'll have a Senate army under Cataclysm on the flank of Cleo, and Cleo's going to be occupied on Phleg, and he can't just leave that position. He's got to focus all his men for Phleg, because Phleg's still got the advantage on him, and he will be in a lot of trouble. So what will happen is the Romans would smash into the side of Cleo here, and basically when that happens, Macedon's morale is not going to be able to take that, and it'll rout, and then basically their flank will collapse, and that'll leave Hades and Luke to be rolled up, or Liam to be rolled up. So this is why I don't think the Seleucids being on the left flank like this is a good idea, because it is going to be an extremely vulnerable position for them to be in, and it's very risky, because if that flank caves in, Macedon morale is not really that high, and especially if it's occupied with Carthage, it won't be much of a it doesn't take much to imagine how easily that Macedon army would also chain rout. So I personally think he should be over here in the centre. In fact, if I were this team, this is what I would do if the overall team, if I were the commander of the team or something, I would focus the attack on the right wing against Greco and Gladius, directed by Liam and Hades, and then I kind of use my flank back with Cleo and Copsman, and they would try and stall or delay action into the battle until these two had made a breakthrough over here, and then they could help roll it around. And it's kind of like an echelon type formation with the attack being pushed out on the right and the flank being refused down to the left, kind of like the Battle of Leuctra, only the other way around. That's what I would probably try with this kind of battle, because I don't think, it's going to be difficult for Copsman and Cleo to make it work on this flank. Cleo's just going to be so occupied trying to deal with Carthage, he's not really going to be able to help anyone else except with his archers. Anyway, it's pretty my general summary here, and I think there's a real risk of that, so that's what I don't think the Seleucids are in a good position, to be honest. It's my experience that the Seleucids really should only be used as, at least in terms of the infantry, as a support to other factions, to kind of cover areas to stop the other factions being outflanked or stop them being overwhelmed or anything like that, because the Seleucid infantry is very substandard. It's no match for Roman infantry, it's no match for Carthage, it's no match for Greece, it's no match for Macedon. The only infantry it can really compete with are some of the other sort of specialist factions, and even some people will use Seleucids against Germania, which in my opinion is not a good move, because the Seleucid morale is too weak and the berserkers can cause chain routes very easily. Of course they are still pike, which can be useful against those German type faction or Britannia faction, but the morale is a very big problem for them. Anyway, as you can see here, it looks like Phleg's trying to coax some Peeler out of Hades, but Hades is not going to take that. He's trying to catch this peasant though, see if he can run off the field. If we look at here on the right, spin, there we go, it looks like Copsman is trying to get some shots in here. He's flaming these guys here, but if I were him, I'd actually put some flank shots into the side of Phleg's forces, because that'll help Cleo a little bit. Cleo has dispersed his archers around, and he's trying to basically shoot up some of these guys, and he's doing pretty well against Greco's guys here. Gladius has not yet brought his men forward, and they've not got range, so they're not firing or anything. So Cleo's got a more concentrated amount of men firing here, so it's giving Cleo the edge in the middle duel there, so that's good for them. Other than that, there's not a whole lot happening on this flank. Looks like Greco's shifting just to connect with his ally a little closer there. And I think what we're seeing here is we're seeing Hades looks like he's playing a stalling role with his urbans here, just putting 5 of them into Testudo, and I think he's trying to hold Gladius out. Which is interesting, because I would be really inclined to want to attack this flank here to make up for the fact that this flank is probably a lot more vulnerable, so they need to get a quick edge over here to sort of make life a little easier on this flank. If we also look, we can see that Hades has actually given 2 urban cohorts into Cleo here as well, which is helpful because even 2 urbans could make a substantial difference in a pike battle, even with Carthage having the advantage here. But here we can see aggressive manoeuvres being made by Brotherhood member Cataclysm, and it looks like Phleg is sending 4 Sacred Band to assist him in this particular move. And this is what I suspect, that he's going to try and outflank the Seleucids, and it looks like with a few of the pikes to push on the fronts and maybe some urbans they're going to try and push around. And if we look here, OTD Copsman has not even moved yet. He's leaving this much too late. If I were Copsman, I'd seriously start running my flank back here. He needs to drop this flank back immediately, because he can't take this, and this is what I was talking about at the start. This is an extremely dangerous position for the Seleucids to be in like this, and as you can see, he's only now just reacting to it, and already Cataclysm is completely around his flank, and Cleo can't really help him here, because he's got to get his focus down there on Carthage. But this is where Hades starts making great moves. You see this, Hades immediately recognising serious danger developing on this flank, so he's sending his cavalry over here, even though there's still quite a bit of attention that could be done to be occupied over here. But he sees this is a serious problem that has developed on this flank already at the start of the game. If we look, several of the Silver Shield pikemen have already been caught, and they are getting pretty much destroyed, and there's not really a lot he can do about that, as you can see. So if this flank collapses so easily like this, and these Silver Shield pikemen will get beaten very, very badly on this flank, he needs to be extraordinarily careful in how he deals with this. But as you can see, this is why, Copsman, I think, was a little too slow here, because now he's getting he's out of position, and he's getting massively outflanked. Now, it's at this point that I believe that Phleg needs to attack Cleo to make sure Cleo's got no time to try and actually help this. If Cleo's fully engaged, he's not going to be able to support this, and he will need all his pikes for Carthage. So anyway, as you can see, the Peeler's coming in now, and we've got probably good 3 or 4 units of Silver Shield Pikemen already routing. The Cataphracts are out this way, but as you can see, Hades has brought men to support it. If you look on this flank, there's not a lot happening, it's just a bit of arch dueling and some minor Peeler dueling. Most of it's happening over here, but we already see a number of these guys getting chased back by the Sacred Band. Hades decides to kill these guys while they're on their own, but he's trying to form them up here to stop Hades' men. This was a good attempt by Hades, because he's trying to kill some isolated men, but he's going to lose quite a bit of cav doing it. So that didn't work out too well for Hades, but it was good thinking. It's just it didn't work out too well, and he lost quite a bit of cav. And as you can see, Copsman is still, seriously, he's not moved far enough back. If you look, his army is facing basically very little to nothing out here. He needs to keep running back and get into the back here, because this is a serious problem for them. Macedon is in a massive problem here, because he's got all this Carthage on his front, but then he's got very little support left from the Seleucids, and he's got this huge Roman army on his flank there. And that's a really big problem, but as we can see, Hades attacked to try and get rid of some of these guys. Did a bit of damage, but he did lose quite a few cav trying to achieve it. Here we can see that some of these Seleucid units are regrouped, and Copsman's cav is still back here, but if we look at this, the Seleucids completely outflanked, and this is what I was talking about at the start. Cleo's now going to try and stop this, and I think the only thing that's not stopping an enormous mass rout from happening right now is that Phleg has not engaged Cleo, so Cleo's got a little bit of time to get himself sorted. At this stage, recognising that the problem is really severe, Hades and Liam have sent their troops over to assist, and Hades is sending more Urbans to help as well. Cleo has had to force units back to hold this back. The Seleucids are in mass rout, but I think the biggest mistake the enemy team has made here is Cataclysm's attack. If we look here, I do apologise for the constant pausing, but there's a lot of things I need you to see at the moment. Cataclysm's attack is on its own mostly. Gladius recognises that there's a serious chance they could rip this flank open, so he's sent his cav over, which is a good move. Greco sent his cav over, so they are recognising this, but it's Phleg who needs to get Macedon engaged, so Macedon can't turn around to assist this, and then they attack Macedon on the flank and chain rout it. But if we look here, we see Hades, look, he charges into the flank here of Cataclysm, and we see nobody's yet supporting him, but Liam sees what's going on. He's sending men to support him in. Gladius is trying to support over here, but this is a really good move here by these two guys, these two Titans members, because what they're doing is they're managing to cut off and start a rout on, look at this, Cataclysm's forces like this. And this is where Copsman, I don't know what he's doing with his cav back here, but if he brought his cav in as well, this rout would have been massive. Anyway, you can see these two recognise a serious problem, so they're bringing in infantry to support this as well. And what looked like an absolute catastrophe for this team has now been recovered by some brilliant cavalry work by Hades and Liam here, which has basically saved what was seriously a very bad situation. And now we see that Phleg has now pushed his waves forward, and he's going to break through the front line pretty quickly on these guys. But as I said, as soon as he's engaging, look, these guys, their pikes are right in their face as soon as they engage there. And at this stage, Gladius is sending men around to try and get the flank here. If we look in the back, the cavalry action's coming in here. The Cataphracts are now coming in to support this. Looks like Hades' cav is starting to break. It's becoming a very, very serious grind-in fight here with cav and infantry all mixed in. There's probably a bit of lag there with that because there's so much going on. But there's infantry coming in. The problem here is Greco has got a really good counter option here. He could slip through here, but if we look at this. This is a nice move by Cleo. You see this? Cleo recognises that this cav could get a counter charge and to cause some serious damage. So what's he done? He's brought some Royal Pikemen through here, and he's going to block it. Very nice move there by Cleo. That stopped what probably would have been a counter cav charge that could have turned that one into the enemy team's favour. As you can see, Cleo's done a really nice job holding up. And if we look here, look what's happened to Phleg's men. Even though Phleg's pikemen are superior, his lines become disrupted and broken up, and because Cleo's still got his guys, see, look, even though they push through the front row and the second row, these back lines have still got their pikes right into their back there. So that's why it was really nicely dispersed there by Cleo. And what's going to happen is these guys are going to break up pretty badly. Now it's going to be harder for them. As you can see, Carthage is starting to master out, and now we can see that Hades is going to start moving around the flank. As you can see, Liam's done a nice move too. He's come in behind Cleo, and he's reinforcing him with his urbans here, because again, if this flank breaks apart, and they get in behind Cleo's Macedonian forces, they will rout. So this is why you can see some nice moves being made by Liam to support this flank, because otherwise it will break apart, and that'll be the end of it. Now they could probably do to have a bit of support over here. It's pretty thin here, as you can see. Here we can see Kotsman's not disengaged as Cataphracts either. This isn't ideal. Although Cataphracts are pretty good in the grind down fight, he needs to disengage them so he can keep recharging them, get that 9 charge, get that large impact before they tire too much and be useless. Anyway, I think he's starting to pull out now, but as you can see, we're going to get a nice charge in here through from Liam, and we're seeing Urbans coming into support. As you can see, it's a really nice charge. He's going to get Gladius as general, and he's going to get several of these guys, and nice big rout going on there. And now Hades is pushing on this flank. Cleo is pretty much run down on the infantry here, although he's still, as you can see, let's bear in mind, Cleo did actually send probably a good 3 or 4 infantry to help this fight in addition to fighting this fight. But now we see that there's loads of these urban cohorts from Liam here, so that should be alright. And Hades is pushing this flank. Gladius has broken through some of these raw pikemen over here, but the key here is Liam and Hades have destroyed Cataclysm's flanking force with a bit of support from Cleo there, and of course a wee bit from Kotsman. And as you can see at this stage, Carthage mass routes into this, and now Liam's going to reinforce with his urban cohorts here, bring them in, and at this stage Hades is pushing around over this flank here, as you can see, and the fight's pretty even all through here, but now that these guys are so heavily outflanked and outnumbered, they've got the advantage now. As you can see, Liam is now behind with his cav here, and he's going to try and charge the side here. Probably didn't have enough momentum there, so that's why that one didn't get an immediate rout. Here we can see that Greco is now going to push around, and all the while this has been happening, Cleo's been getting his archers into all sorts of positions to take flank shots, so they've been doing substantial damage to help turn things too, which I didn't mention before because I was so busy focusing on everything, but that would have helped a lot as well. Anyway, we see some pretty big cab charges coming in here, but these guys are pretty depleted, so the impact's not quite the same. Over here, as we can see, Hades is still fighting it out with Greco. He's a wee bit outnumbered, but these guys are breaking this flank, so it's just a matter of time before they roll this one up and come around. And it looks like they're about to do that now. Yep, as you can see, yeah, they're starting to push through it around now, and someone's admitted defeat. That might be Gladius, I think. Looks like all the Brutii forces just simultaneously routed. That probably was Gladius admitting. And then the rest of Carthage and Greco's forces are now routing. Some cav coming through here from Hades. Not much of an impact though, it doesn't cause much of a rout, but we can see these forces are now rolling the flank around, and they're going to cause a pretty big rout here on Greco's remaining forces. So I have to say this was an extremely good comeback, because that was a disastrous situation that this team was in at the start. The Seleucids got so badly out of position, so badly flanked, that it really, when I first looked at it, I thought, I think they're pretty stuffed, because really it doesn't take much for Macedon to be mass routed if its flank gets exposed like it was getting exposed. The only thing I think that saved them was I don't think Phleg engaged soon enough. I think he left that a little too late in the piece. Had Phleg engaged more fully while Macedon was at such a risk of being outflanked like that, there might have been more of an inclined to be a mass rout happen, but it didn't work that way. And I have to say, it was a good move by Cataclysm to attempt to flank like that, but I don't think he had enough support from his allies. Although having said that, Gladius did recognise the importance of cavalry going around there, and he sent cav, as did Greco, but I just don't think they sort of coordinated the strike quite right, whereas Hades and Liam and Cleo coordinated getting their gear together immediately, and they knew that if they didn't quickly gain control of that, then the whole battle was lost. I mean, and that's the thing. There are situations in 31k where you have to recognise that, you know, if that's not fixed, if there's a situation developing over here, if that is not fixed really quickly, then this whole thing is going to fall to pieces. And essentially, Cleo, Hades, and especially Hades and Luke or Liam, they recognised that and they quickly worked to close that, and they had to do that because if they had been even just a fraction too slow on that, that whole flank would have caved in, and that would have been good night for this team. So an extremely good comeback. If we look here, Cleo has got just under 2,000 kills. Very impressive indeed, given how dangerous the position he found himself in for the majority of this fight. Kopsman got completely outpositioned here. I think he was a little bit slow getting his army back into retreat there. And again, the whole thing is, I think it was way too risky having the Seleucids on the flank to begin with. They should have been in the central position there, facing the Brutii, facing Gladius, I think, would have been where I'd want to put him. But they managed to make an excellent recovery. Look at Hades here, 1654. Extremely good moves with Hades with his cab and immediately supported by Liam. These two really saved the day massively here, I think, because otherwise Cleo would have been mass routed as well. If we look at these guys here, everyone except Greco has made it roughly around 1200. I think Phleg was maybe just a little bit slow engaging Macedon. I think if you engage Macedon while these guys had not yet established their foothold or recovered that position, it might have mass routed Cleo, but it's hard to say. I think it was a great move by Cataclysm to attempt to flank like that, but I just don't think he got enough support fast enough, and he might have gone a little too far around, where he got cut off from his allies who couldn't support him as quickly, and he became susceptible to cavalry strikes from Hades, Liam and Kopsman. And that, I think, dealt Cataclysm a bit of a damage, but honestly it was a good move. I just think he overextended a little bit far. Some good support there by Gladius. He recognised that they had to break that flank. He tried supporting it, but the recovery effort by Hades, Liam and Cleo was extremely good. So a very good game. I was very excited when I played this, watched this game rather than play it. I wish I had played it, that would have been great. But if we look at Cleo's stats here, look at these pikemen, 203, 124, 137. You do not normally see Royal Pikemen getting these kind of kills. At least in my builds, they usually get wasted. They only do a lot of holding. But not only that, his Cretans have also done extremely well. So very nice scorecard there for Cleo indeed. So I thought that was a fantastic game. There was a real decisive moment in the battle where it could have absolutely gone either way, and to be honest, when I saw how badly Kopsman's army was outpositioned and getting destroyed, I thought, this is over. They can't recover this, because it's just going to be a matter of Phleg pushing in on Macedon, Cataclysm hitting the flank, and Macedon's going to rout as well, and then it's just 2 versus 4. And I thought, that would be a pretty easy thing to achieve, but some excellent recovery work there, and they've turned what was a pretty disastrous battle or situation into a very good victory. So well done to Cleo, Kopsman, Hades and Liam. Great game to all of you though. I thoroughly enjoyed commentating this one. Again guys, if you have battles like this one that are really high quality ones, be sure to send me a message on Steam or leave a message on video and tell me what you've got, and you can send them to me because I'm really happy to upload battles like this one. So thanks again guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please leave comments, tell me what you think, and tell us how you think Cleo performed or all the other guys performed. It was an extremely good game, and it'd be awesome to see the feedback. So thanks again guys, and I'll see you soon next time.